This is a profound overview on the human condition of grief. What permission did you have to give yourself to write the story?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Um, it came, I mean, the birth of the story came out of not exactly a position of grief on my behalf or on my part, but um, let's call it a close shave. Um,
Okay.
in 2022, I had another feature film that came out, and I was about to go out on the festival circuit, and I was all excited about it. And then in February of 2023, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer,
Okay.
and a particularly rare and nasty thing where she actually had two different kinds of breast cancer, one in each breast, requiring two completely different chemotherapies, one after the other. So she was
Right.
in chemo for seven months.
Oh,
And
brother.
then she had surgery, and then she had radiation. I mean, and cut to the end of the story, she's 100% completely fine. But it was a dark year,
Yeah.
and uh, I got to December of 2023, and she was fine, and everything was clear. And I thought, okay, well, I got to, because I didn't do anything except take care of her for that whole entire period of time. And I was just too depressed to write. I had tried to be the cheerleader, and then I had the personal letdown. I couldn't do anything. I was just a rock. And then in February or March, Nelson, who plays the lead in Stop Time, called me and said, "Hey, whatever happened to that idea you had about a photographer?" And indeed, I had had an idea about a photographer, a
Right.
completely different idea about
Oh
a
my.
photographer, about him and a
Right.
young boy, and the boy steals a camera. It was a whole completely different concept.
Right.
And I thought, okay, let me see what I can do, and adapt this. And I wrote a 44-minute movie, which was just Peter's story, just that portion. Of course, including the part where they meet at the gallery and then to the end. But anything involving Adriana prior to that was not part of this script.
The whole
And I
adoption
made
thing.
I made that film, shot it completely, post everything, and I did a cast and crew screening. And in the bar afterwards, where we went to celebrate a little, Nelson's wife, this all originates with Nelson's wife, whose name is Rachel, came up to me and said, you know, I'm really curious, what's Adriana's story? Because she has that line when they're out on the terrace where she says, "You and I both have histories. Some of yours is sad, mine too." And so, could we figure out what Adriana's story was? And I went, "Oh, that's interesting. I could actually turn this into a feature-length film by
Amazing.
coming up with something that happens to Adriana in the same 24-hour period as we see Peter."
Yeah.
And that was the kind of very, very fractured inception of this story.
Unbelievable, bro. The key element in any pattern of difficult mental health, such as grief, is a quest for redemption. What were you expressing about that quest in the film?
I don't know about redemption, but I think there's a key word that he has in the scene with his shrink, with Dr. Friedman, which is the doctor says, when he says, I can't date anybody, and the doctor says, you just have to give yourself permission. And I think permission is an important part of this. It's like that that grief is real and important, but in the end, if you're going to come out of it, it's because you allow yourself to come. You have to give yourself permission to let go. And I think that that's the particular arc in this 24-hour period that Peter has, is learning that he can actually give himself permission. And that's illustrated by, in the end, it's really in the second dream that he has, that Marin, his wife, is in. She gives him permission. But of
Right.
course, other people aren't in our dreams. Everybody in our dream is us. They're not, there's not really a person there who, if I'm dreaming about my mother, it's not my mother in my head, it's me
Well,
expressing something to myself through my mother. So it's him giving himself permission, but through the agency of Marin, his wife.
excuse me. Oh yeah, when somebody has dementia or Alzheimer's, is said they die twice. What gift of redemption were you giving Patty's character, as far as
Uh,
her struggle?
I think that was a very interesting film for me, a scene for me to
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
because let me backtrack a little. The way this film was made was very much personal relationships. So I cast Nelson because Nelson is a colleague of mine at the Actor Studio and's been in a couple of plays of mine. Judy Jerome, who plays Carla, Eddie Kaler, who plays Mason, Christina Toth, and Daria Karic are all also Actor Studio members that I connected to through the studio. I'd worked with three of them before, two of them I had not.
wow,
Nelson introduced me to Tara as a possible person to play Adriana, and of course I loved her. She's a great actress. Tara introduced me to Patty.
oh wow,
So so there's a kind of a
wow,
line of a sequence of friendships.
yeah,
And I think the thing that, when you're working with an older actress, and Patty is amazing in terms of she's the opposite of that character. Her mental acuity is astonishing for somebody who just turned 80.
yeah,
Um, but you're always worried that there's going to be a problem with remembering lines, and I've had that on other projects that I've done. She that wasn't really her problem at all, but the sort of love that Adriana that you see in that scene between the two of them, that was real. That's how Tara feels about Patty. And so that coaxing and encouraging and being amused by that both of the younger women have, Catherine Quirico sitting on the floor, as well. That felt it just as an observer, kind of standing to one side of the camera. That felt really, really real to me.
nice,
And I think in terms of the character, it's goes back to something that Adriana says earlier on in her first scene with her daughter, where she says, "I want you to come when I go see Grandma because you wake her up." And it's being able to surface these buried memories,
right, right,
that come and that are very meaningful to the other two people in the room.
right. Come back to that one. Also, with Nelson Avedon and Tara Westwood, did you want specific levels of grief or stress from them, or were they, in collaboration with you, on board for the interpretation that you projected from the very beginning?
I did very, very little direction with them in terms of what I would call emotional level adjustment. I don't.
Okay,
I kind of let them go.
okay,
Um,
okay.
they're both really, really first rate actors. I mean, seriously fine actors. And it was at the most, it was, the famous John Huston line that there are only two directions, a little bit more and a little bit less. And that was it. It was like, just fine tuning and let them just do. I mean, I
Yeah,
think when you have two really fine people like that, it's like you're more likely to do harm than good by over directing and imposing. And also, as a director, I'm the kind I happen to like, not when people change things. I don't like that. But I don't mind when I'm surprised at all. I
yeah.
really like being surprised by what an actor does.
Well, I was going to say, for example, how did Patty interpret that character beyond your page?
Just it was her physicality. That she's so sort of bird-like in her gestures and her mannerisms, and it's that sort of interesting thing where she's old but she's almost youthful in the way that she kind of moves and uses her hands. It's not like a little old lady who's kind of,
Right, right,
decrepit.
right, right.
So it's that she's, and her cheerfulness, that you can be
Yeah.
dementia angry, or you can be dementia cheerful, and she was dementia cheerful, which I thought was great.
were there some influences in this film? For example, Peter's the inspiration for Peter's photography, the general cinematic look and feel of the film, of course, the French film The Red Balloon.
Yeah, well, the red balloon is just that's a sort of, you know, that's an inside reference.
Yeah.
It's you know,
Is that a
it's not.
spoiler? I can take that out. Is that a
No,
spoiler?
not at all. Not at
Okay,
all.
good.
Not at all. No, it's the first thing you see in the movie.
Right. That's true.
Um, um, it, you know, it has a very specific application in this film,
Right.
but
Correct.
the film The Red Balloon, I have anecdotal evidence from my family that it's not the first film that I ever saw, but it is the first film that I remember seeing.
Wow. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and because we had a 16 millimeter projector when I was a kid.
Oh my
My father
gosh.
had a 16 millimeter projector, and when we had birthday parties, he would rent movies to show to all us like 6-year-olds. And as it happened, I was going to a French language school in New York City. I was going to the École Française as a first grader. So naturally, he rented a French
Of
movie.
course. The Red
And
Balloon.
so that's how I remember it. I mean, in terms of the style, all of the photographs are mine.
Okay. Okay.
Those are all,
Interesting.
those are kind of, those are from my, you know, gallery, or it's from my portfolio
Okay.
of still photography that I have done over the last 5 years.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and you know, that the nine trees thing was a very specific project that I did in 2021.
Okay.
All of those, I happen to love doing wintry landscapes. I mean, this is something I adore. So that's all me. And then the idea of it being in black and white has which this I'm not going to say because that would be a spoiler,
Right.
but the way black and white and the little bits of color that appear are used is very much part of the storytelling.
Yeah.
It's built around that, and also the black and white because Peter is a black and white photographer, so that's how he sees the world when he's looking through his camera. The use of black and white and color
Okay.
is an integral part of the way the story is
Right.
told.
My final question, finally, is a multi-hybrid writer, director, composer, French speaker. How do the different disciplines feed off each other? I mean, as a
Um,
creative soul myself, I'm curious.
it's a sort of stage by stage thing. I had to learn to write visually. So, because I kind of came into this out of playwriting originally, and
Okay,
playwriting is primarily dialogue.
sure. Yeah,
And as a screenwriter, I tend, by most people's standards, to be pretty dialogue heavy. I mean, that's just kind of the way I write. But I've also learned to think imagistically and to write what all of the images are going to be very
right,
specifically into the
right.
script. Consequently, I don't shoot coverage. I don't shoot anything that is extra. I shoot what the script says, image by image. I mean, I shoot coverage in the sense of if I'm doing a dialogue scene, I'm going to do
Right,
the over the shoulder
right,
close up,
right,
but
right,
I'm
right,
not
right.
going to shoot like stuff that I know I'm not going to use. So it's
Right.
very economical. I mean, I think, it's a, in the end of the edit, it's a roughly 80-minute movie. And I don't think we shot altogether, I don't think we shot more than 4 or 5 hours of material. So then the edit is fairly self-explanatory. I'm not going to be moving,
Right,
this nothing crazy is going to happen because I've
right,
already decided what it's going to be.
right, right,
And then just in terms of the pacing of the edit,
right.
I tend to write all of the music while I am editing. So I will begin to edit a scene and I'll go, okay, I guess this is going to sound like this. And then I'll switch gears and I'll start working on some of the music. And then in the end, I will either arrive at an edit that I like and make the music fit the edit, or I will arrive at a piece of music that I like and I will make the edit fit the music. But
Amazing.
that process is completely integrated for me.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.